If you hang in there till the end of this one, I explain why I'm sharing my family story. Cajuns, the descendants of the Acadian expulsion from Nova Scotia begun in 1755, chose to live a largely isolated existence in the marshes of Louisiana until changes in politics in the 19th century began forceful efforts to assimilate the Cajuns. The idea that everyone should espouse American middle-class values brought big changes to Louisiana at the beginning of the 20th century. The movement was led by people such as Luther Hall, elected governor in 1912. In 1916, the state legislature approved Act 27, which required that all children attend public school and only speak the English language. My mama and papa were born right into these changes. My papa had 9 brothers and sisters. Poor experience in those days would be truly understood by very few of us today. His stories of excitement to receive an orange for Christmas was hard for me to understand, but he was truly thankful for those years that that orange was there. Later in his life, he loved toys as much as I did because they never had anything like that as a child. He went to school until the 4th grade, where he was beaten for speaking French. By this time, his family was starving, literally starving, so he went to work in the oil field. As a kid, he was working a man's job. The Cajuns, happy savages living in a moss-draped bayou paradise, fishing and trapping for sustenance, expressing a simple devotion to Catholic ritual and a naive response to the modern world. The Cajun, he speaks an unintelligible French mishmash or perhaps thickly accented English to a large brood of barefoot children and spends every Saturday night at the Fay Dodo. As I grew older, the descriptions I heard from people always astounded me and made me uncomfortable. It was a mixture of truth and condescension. Remember my not-so-average Joe, better known to me as Papa, only went to the 4th grade in school, could do pages of sums in his head without a calculator in seconds. He never in my memory ever missed a day of work, ran a farm with every imaginable animal, and was still willing to dance with me and my mama in the kitchen. My mama loved to watch Little House on the Prairie, and when I asked her why, she said it was because I had water and that was my life. Cajuns were depicted in American press as dirty, uneducated, rural, and lazy. The Bayou country remained extremely isolated until the 1950s, and most Cajuns did not have the means to purchase a mode of transportation other than a horse cart until that time as well. Close family units and farming, trapping, and hunting defined Cajun life from settlement until the 20th century. The Cajun language was a major form of group cohesiveness. Without a formal schooling system, most Cajuns remained illiterate in speaking the French characteristic of their communities. This describes my great-grandparents perfectly. Illiterate does not mean stupid. It is a source of awe to me the hard but happy life they built and maintained on almost nothing. They made the most of everything they had and nature provided. How I heard people describe the Cajun oilfield workers, the boudreaux, the coonasses, the throwaways. On the bottom of the ladder, you had what you called roustabouts, who run around and did everything that nobody else wanted to do. The grunt. He unloads and stacks pipe, mops, cleans, paints, that kind of thing. You do what you're told and plus. After the roustabouts, you have the roughnecks. They work the actual drilling floor on the rigs and make up or break up the pipe. Their job is probably the most dangerous. The joke was that this is the brawn and no brains job, which really isn't true. They could literally kill everyone on the rig. You can't go on to any promotion unless you work on the drilling floor. After roughneck, the next job would be a mudman. He follows the orders of the mud engineer in preparing the drilling mud. That's a fluid mixture which is used to equalize the pressure when you're drilling a well so that it doesn't collapse. The next highest job is derrickman. The derrickmen work about 80 feet up in the air, standing on a small platform called the monkey board. The driller is above the derrickman. He operates the equipment and monitors everything that's going on. After the driller is the top job, the tool pusher. The tool pusher is the overseer of the entire job. Sometimes he's called the rig manager, and he has the same authority as the master of the vessel on a boat. He is to work in cooperation with the company man who represents whichever oil company, which happened to be W.T. Burton from my papa, has hired the rig to drill for them. I asked my papa why he did such a dangerous, hard job, and he said a lot of Cajun people work in the oil fields, and it really came in handy. It beat picking cotton for sure, and he said, I'll tell you that. My papa worked a rig that exploded. He was that main rig manager. It was a raging fire. My papa, that soul, considered a throwaway by so many, ran back into that raging inferno because he thought his men were still stuck on that rig. Once he made it out, he drove himself to the hospital, and as he did, he watched the flesh fall off of his fingers. Once he made it to the hospital, my mama watched them pour buckets of bleach on him to get the burned flesh and melted clothing off his body. When they asked him why he did such a fool thing, he simply said, "Those were my men." Not one man lost his life on that rig fire that night. My papa never once complained of the pain of those burns, and he worked for that company until he retired. I still remember the day he got his first paid holiday, and he could not believe they were paying him to stay home on the farm. Oh, how he loved her. My mama was 10 years older than my papa, and she made him chase her for years. But no one made him smile like her. They fought in French and they danced in the kitchen. I'd find them at midnight laughing over the last piece of pie. They would conspire together to surprise me and be so tickled when it worked. But in everything and through everything, they did it together. She ran a store in their yard until the arthritis was so bad she couldn't close her hands. Then she gardened and still fed the animals when he was on the rig. Never once did I hear her complain. She was his steady foundation. Papa never judged anyone and tried to give anyone he could a chance to work, so we saw all sorts out here, not all good-hearted. She was the one to run off the bad ones. Papa would rescue animals he found on the side of the road, and she'd keep them alive. They made the best example of soulmates I've ever seen. They struggled and fought for every success, and they appreciated every gift and never cursed the many tragedies and losses. My papa was a reluctant brawler back in the day. He got a reputation that he couldn't be beat, and you know men. The next man just knew he'd be the one to take down Joe. I asked him his secret, and he never would say. It was my daddy who said he learned to take a beating as a kid, and he could wear 'em down and then knock 'em out. When he started to get sick, he had his first x-ray, and the doctor was astounded to see a bullet lodged near his spine. Papa just said, "Aw, that was nothing. It was a long time ago." It was a lady who worked at a literal whorehouse who saved him that long ago night. So many stories, so many reasons he could have been bitter and resentful and wasn't. He was a quiet, generous, loving man by the time I was born. I am so thankful he was given the chance to become the not-so-average Joe. Boudreaux was sitting in the bar in Maurice, Louisiana, one Saturday night, and he had several beers under his belt. After a while, he looked at the guy sitting next to him and asked, "Hey, you want to hear a good Aggie joke, you?" The big guy replied, "Let me tell you something. I'm an oil-filled roughneck. I weigh 270 pounds, and I don't like Cajuns. My buddy here, he's a pro football player, weighs 300 pounds, and he don't like Cajuns either. His friend on his other side, he's a professional wrestler, weighs 320 pounds, always has a chip on his shoulder, and he likes Cajuns even less than we do. And we are all Aggies. Do you really want to tell an Aggie joke?" Boudreaux, all 150-pound Cajun attitude, told him, "Well, I guess not. After all, I don't want to have to explain it 3 times." Truth. The Cajun people love to joke and have a very pragmatic outlook on life. They are a hard-working, hard-playing bunch. Why am I sharing this? Because it shows you the lens through which I see the world. Pain that is not transformed will be transmitted. My grandparents had every justification in the world to be bitter and resentful and chose happiness and love instead. They taught me we are all connected. They taught me that dehumanization of any group is the wrong path. They taught me to have compassion with boundaries, to believe each person, however broken, is doing their personal best at that moment of their journey. That you can love without judgment and help, but still say, "You won't bring that into my home." To say your piece, not avoid confrontation so that you avoid a battle within. So many beautiful gifts. Every person in their life will cast a shadow and a light on the world, and each is needed. Be good to yourself, be good to others, and good things will find you.